Hello, I'm Lorie Coates, BCBA and co-coordinator of the BATE team for Davis School District.
And I'm Jocelyn Ruiz, BCBA and co-coordinator of the BATE team, and we're back with a new episode of the BATE Debate. BATE Debate will address simple research-based behavioral practices that will work with individual students or groups of students in school settings. The situations and questions will be adapted from what we are hearing and seeing in schools. These are common struggles with students of all abilities. Although they are simple strategies, they will be effective at decreasing challenging behavior and making your day just a little easier. We're excited to share these strategies to make them available to SPED teachers, gen ed teachers, and other staff working in schools. Don't forget to check us out on social media. So we are at behavior_in_progress on Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, and Facebook. So make sure to check us out on all of those platforms. All right. So last episode, we talked about above all teaching
Yes.
students. Lorie, do you have any stories or experiences about where teaching was critical for students?
Yeah, I actually had one last week, so kind of nice to have an example for today.
Yeah.
Last week, a student was in crisis, and the school team implemented a new intervention that we had talked about with the school team, and it just made the crisis a little bit worse. So when that happened, I checked in with the team and said, did you get a chance to teach him what you were going to do during that? And they said, not at all. So then the next time they were able to teach him, and the crisis went a lot better. So teaching
Yeah.
first really helps,
Yeah, teaching our interventions.
right?
Mhm.
Yeah. How about you?
Well, mine is I was out in a classroom after winter break sometime, and I had observed a teacher teaching routines and procedures. So I know we teach those at the beginning of the school year, but anytime we come back from a break too, it's important that teachers review those procedures because sometimes they may drift, and
Right.
it's always important to give students a reminder of what the expectations are and how to go through those routines. So I think that's a critical part is
Yeah.
teaching those things as well.
Yeah. And our great teachers know how to do that part and know
They-
it has to be done
Yeah,
multiple
I'm
times a year.
very impressed every
Yes.
time I see them do it. Yeah.
That's wonderful. So, go ahead. Oh, what's our topic for today?
Today we're going to be talking about finding function, especially the tricky ones.
Hmm.
So Lorie, what makes finding the right function tricky?
There are so many factors that go into finding the right function. Some of those factors could be your lack of data and just following your gut. For instance, I'll see some people say, well, I'm just sure that the function is this. Well, what data do we have to support that, right? I think that's really critical. Another piece is we'll have a lot of anecdotal reports that will be emotionally charged and subjective, and that's really difficult to find function when we've done that. The other one that I see is assuming all behavior is attention-seeking or control-motivated,
Yes.
which control is not a function of behavior, as we discussed before. The other thing that I've seen is people will give up on an intervention because it didn't get the immediate expected results. And then there's just many others that contribute to that. What do we do to combat these factors?
Well, you mentioned not having enough data to look at the function. So ensuring that we have clear data and have analyzed it instead of, like you said, going with our gut. Data is helpful in determining the function without including our emotions because it gives us a very objective thing to base off of. Additionally, along that same line, making sure that any anecdotal information that is recorded when your emotions are back to baseline. Otherwise, your emotions will impact that anecdotal data that you have. Can also seems that many do want to assume that a lot of behavior is attention motivated, especially with young children. While that is a common function of behavior, it's an error that's going to leave you frustrated and missing important intervention strategies. Lastly, when we give up on intervening because the behavior didn't change immediately, it doesn't always mean that we missed the function, but could mean that we just need a little bit more time. If you did miss the function, this is data for you to readjust your hypothesis.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
What about those times when determining the function seems very tricky?
Well, you've really got to dig in and take a little time to determine function, again, instead of trusting your gut. What I've seen is that it's tricky because we didn't take a minute to really determine the function. Additionally, I've seen some situations where the function was tricky due to many outside variables. And so the team had to really isolate these variables and try to take a closer look at that point. Sometimes we may need to do a functional analysis if it gets too tricky. And a functional analysis is different than a functional behavioral assessment. And it takes a lot of finesse and a lot of good training on the part of the BCBA and a lot of good mentoring to do this in schools especially. But there is always the functional analysis, which you could use. So what is our main summary, what to do on tricky functions?
Well, it really does come down to 4 primary considerations that we've already discussed, but I'll kind of recap those for everyone. The first is to look at your data, rely on your data, not on your gut. Even this may take a little bit more time. You may need to collect some more additional data to help you with your analysis. Number 2, you should pay attention to the emotions that are impacting your information. So it might be helpful maybe to get a new set of eyes in the room, somebody that can take that emotional component or help take that emotional component out of the equation. Don't give up because it didn't work at first. This is also data. So what can we do to adjust our intervention? Maybe what do we need to change? And last one, our data still are inconclusive as to what the function is, and we can consider some more intensive assessments such as a functional analysis, like you mentioned. Function is important. Anytime we see a behavior, our question should be, WTF, what's the function?
Absolutely. Absolutely, instead of just guessing.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for tuning in to this episode of Bait Debate. We're so excited to have this opportunity to share behavioral strategies. Taking time to figure out the function of behavior will help good targeted intervention. Sometimes it's tricky, but with patience and good data, it can be done. We hope this information presented was useful to you and meaningful. And we also have lots of exciting topics we'll be covering as we continue throughout the school year to keep you and your educator friends reeled in. Catch you next time.